No, it's not, no.
If you'd like to find out some more about Paul's project, the internet access point is Safe Speed. It's a capital S for both counts, so it's capital S AFE, capital S lowercase PEED, safespeed.org.uk. I feel like a bingo caller sometimes with all these numbers, you know. I'm just waiting for you to call out house, Paul, and we'll all go home early.
Yeah, I think we should, yeah.
The number is 08704 20 20 20. Steve sent me an email. He's enjoying the show at the moment. He said, are the new digital speed cameras always operational?
Well, no. There's been some tremendous difficulties in commissioning some of the systems. I think sometimes it's taken up to a year to get them actually working. So that's that's a bit of a gift for motorists, I think. But once they are commissioned and barring breakdowns, then yeah, I mean, they will work continuously. And of course the information is linked back to a processing centre electronically, and a computer prints a ticket, and there you go. A 25% bite out of your driving licence, unless you choose to fight it.
Tell me, if Pete, for example, we're going to speak to in about 5-10 seconds, chose to fight it, going to just a lawyer, a local guy, could not necessarily be the right path, because he wouldn't be fully versed in various aspects of, I don't know, things which could be advantageous to know.
Road traffic law, tremendously complicated. It's a specialist discipline. And your average high street solicitor will say, traffic tickets aren't worth fighting. You know, it's only £60 roll over. If you do want to use a solicitor to fight it, you'll have to find a specialist.
Right. Good. OK, Pete, you're on talkSPORT. Good to have you here. What would you like to ask Paul?
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Pete.
What is, I'm 25. I've been an heavy goods driver since I was 21. I was just going back to what the lady said before about inexperienced young drivers.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had my licence since I was 17. And I've never had any points on... Well, I've had one accident which wasn't my fault. It was like a middle-aged driver who went into me. And sometimes it's not just the young drivers, it's older drivers that haven't adjusted to the new rules of the road and the new road markings and stuff, you know. And another thing with inexperienced drivers, I don't understand why the DSA doesn't have a motorway test as part of your normal driving test, and you have, instead of having to pay for advanced driving. I mean, because at the end of it, as soon as you pass your driving test, you're allowed on the motorway with absolutely no experience, and that can't be safe, can it, really?
It's a difficult thing. Where I live, I'm in North Scotland, I haven't got a motorway within about 140 miles, so if I was to take a driving test here, fortunately I took my driving test in 1972, but if I was to take a driving test here, what would I do if there was a motorway part of the test? It would be very difficult.
I do understand that. It's just, but in a lot of areas, especially built-up areas, you'd think that it would be commonplace on a driving test for... I mean, because when you learn to drive your lorry, you have to do a stretch of motorway driving.
Yeah.
That's part of your test, even just a junction, but it's still...
Yeah. I do think we should take the whole issue of driver skill and driver training much more seriously. There are huge opportunities there to improve road safety. And it's not just by formal training either. It's by public information, you know. If you go to France, every evening you watch TV, you will see sensible road safety adverts giving safe driving advice. We're not getting any of that. We get these ridiculous speed kills adverts, and that's all we get. That's the diet. We're on a diet of speed kills. Whereas
I totally agree with you on the speeding front as well, because I mean I do a lot of driving on the M6, and there was roadworks probably about 6 months ago on the M6 at Lancaster, and they've still got the lines on the road from the speed camera, which was 50 mile an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly seeing drivers of cars, and they're slamming on the brakes as soon as they see these lines on the motorway.
Yeah.
And I mean, that can't be safe. I mean,
well, no, it doesn't help at all, does
speed
it?
limit signs up saying 50 mile an hour, the road's completely clear, and they're still hitting the brakes as soon as they see these lines, because they're absolutely feared to death of paying, a fine for, just driving at a safe speed, really. I mean, you don't really too slow on a motorway.
Exactly.
Thanks for that, Pete. Wish you well. Thanks very much. You're listening to talkSPORT. I'm Mike Allen. If you want to be part of the programme, I'm delighted to say that Paul Smith is with us, and he's available on 08704 20 20 20. I didn't realise you lived so far away from a motorway.
We moved up here in 1990. I'm a Londoner originally, and we thought we'd find a better quality of life. It's really not the right place to run this campaign from, but I mean that was no part of the plan when we moved here, and we're happy here. So,
well, we're paying for this call, aren't we?
I think you are.
Yeah. Okay.
I spend a lot of time on the M6 myself, driving up and down on campaign business.
Yes. Well, thank goodness you're not further south, because you'd then be entitled to use the M25.
Indeed.
The other Friday I got on it, and there was a 2-hour journey I planned to do, and it took 4 hours.
Yeah, it can happen.
That in itself is a major reason for people accelerating and almost kangaroo driving, taking liberties where there's space to try and catch up on lost time. From my experience, I don't think you really do.
Well, these braking waves that you get, I don't know, were you talking about braking waves that arise on motorways? When traffic's congested, suddenly you find you're going 70 stop, 70 stop, 70
That's
stop,
right.
when actually you'd much rather be doing a constant 50.
How does that happen?
That arises because people don't allow enough distance between vehicles. And when the vehicle in front starts to slow, because the next vehicle is a little bit too close, he's a little bit late starting to slow and has to slow down a little bit more fiercely, and the vehicle behind him has to slow down a little bit more fiercely still. And this arises when the gaps between vehicles are too small. But of course our wonderful road safety policy doesn't tell us much about the gaps that we should be leaving between vehicles. They're trusting to luck as far as that's concerned. But 2 seconds, in good normal conditions, 2 seconds from the vehicle in front, you will have time to react. And of course all drivers should be trying to look far beyond the vehicle in front. You shouldn't wait until the vehicle in front brakes. You should be observing cars as far ahead as possible, really.
Steve's listening to the programme, but unlike most people, he's in Belgium. Hello, Steve.
Hiya.
Oh, we're doing okay, except you're doing it on the other side of the road.
No, I am, yeah. I've just driven up through Germany, so I'm coming through Belgium at the moment. I'm touring with a band, so I've been away from home for 3 months. But anyway, I've been listening to your programme with interest, and I just would like to make the point that if you're driving around the UK and you're a foreigner driving in England, like myself, they see about over in Belgium, if you get caught by a speed camera, you don't actually get a fine or any points whatsoever. And if you're having to be, like some of my friends have been caught recently by a camera, and they've asked for the name of the driver, they've given the name of a Polish person or something like that, and they've actually not got anything back and got off of it. I just wanted to make that point, really.
Oh, yeah, there are two issues here. I mean, one is how the authorities in this country deal with foreign registered vehicles, and of course they find it extremely difficult. Let's say they've got a photograph from a speed camera of a vehicle that's registered in another European country. There is no, as of right now, there is no system whereby a UK police force can demand vehicle registration details from a foreign registration authority, even within Europe. So they just don't bother. Those tickets get deleted. So
absolutely.
People may be looking for the opportunity to drive foreign registered cars when they can in this country in order to evade tickets.
Yeah, well, it's quite unfair really on the British public who are driving around and getting caught on a regular basis when, in actual fact, now there's a lot of foreign vehicles and Polish people and various other people from Europe coming over, driving around with their cars and can basically break the law on an everyday basis and get away with it. So
with impunity, absolutely.
Thanks, Steve. This is talkSPORT. Do you know you've got a very strong following this morning, Paul?
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, no, really.
I'm quite used to it.
Yes. But it's interesting because you're speaking up for the motorist and saying that which we've been forced to support, that speed kills and everything else, may not necessarily be true.
No, it really isn't.
Is that your breakfast just ready coming up there?
That's my laptop.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's not a problem. Not a problem. Stuart's in Leeds. Hello, Stuart.
Yeah.
Welcome to talkSPORT. I've got Paul Smith here. How can he help you?
Yeah, the previous two callers have sort of stole me thunder a little bit. The first one being the speed camera issue. I mean, I'm a Class 1 driver, lorry driver. I work both nights and days, so I get a bit of a both view of what people were talking about driving at night and then motorway driving during the day or just general traffic during the day. What I think they'll find is on the stretch on the A1, I'm just using this as an example, where it actually goes into a 50 mile an hour limit and there's actually cameras situated, say, 200-300 metres apart. And as a lorry driver, obviously it's going to take us a lot longer to come down to the speed limit required. But you get cars that are slamming on the anchors, seeing the camera, going through the actual lines, and then as soon as they've gone through the lines, they speed up again, and then it's a bottleneck effect. How is that safe? Because, I mean, all they're doing, they're driving to the camera rather than driving to the road.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It isn't safe in the least. I mean, this is one of the problems. There's a vast vista of side effects that we get from speed cameras. We get drivers concentrating on the wrong safety factor. We get this sort of kangaroo camera surfing behaviour where we slow down for the camera and speed up again. We get drivers looking for speed cameras when they should be looking at the road ahead. We have drivers who have taken the message on board and now believe that all they have to do in order to ensure that they're safe is stick to the speed limit. But we've actually got a list published of 30 different side effects. 30 different side effects from speed cameras, none of which Department for Transport has researched properly. They haven't put this policy in context. It exists in isolation as a set of beliefs, and until they put it in context, they're not going to find out how bad it is. But of course, that's what the Safe Speed research has done. It's put it in context.
Thank you, Stuart. Wish you well. Have a good journey. Dave is in Epping. We're going to speak to him in just a moment. I mentioned earlier on, I asked you, is there not a future for you with a motoring organisation? Because they pledge to speak on behalf of their members, and I would have thought that a challenge from an outfit such as yourself by association would only do not only yourself good, but the motoring organisation in question.
Well, we're quite friendly with a range of organisations, companies. The information is spreading out now. I mean, organisations like the RAC Foundation, which is the research part of the RAC, I'm quite friendly with them. I talk with them several times a week quite often, and information is flowing.
Oh, good. David's in Epping. At one time, it used to be the hunting ground of Dick Turpin, and apparently he actually robbed farmhouses more than he robbed stagecoaches. I suppose the advantage he had there is he didn't have to overtake them. Hello, David.
Hi, good evening to you.
Hello.
Good morning to you.
Paul Smith here.
Yes, indeed. Good morning to you, Paul Smith.
Good morning.
Just over a year ago, my two sons and I were travelling around north of England on a golfing holiday, ending up at the Open in St Andrews. We were actually flashed by a handheld camera by the Durham Constabulary. I got the notice because it was my car we were driving in. We were unsure who was driving at that particular time because we couldn't even find this particular village on the map. So we hadn't a clue who was driving or what was driving. I wrote to the Durham Constabulary and said, look, I will pay for any sort of evidence you've got so we can see who's driving so I can complete this form.
Yeah.
They never did this until 2 days before, because I then pleaded not guilty. 2 days before the trial was due to take place, the prosecution people phoned me up and tried to get me to actually plead guilty to the speeding rather than the other offence of not replying to their or not completing their form. Then I said, well, I'm not going to complete the form until you produce this evidence because I'm entitled to the evidence. They then produce the evidence and you can't see, because for some unknown reason the photograph is not taking place. You can't see who's driving the car. You can see it is my car, but you can't see because there's a flash across the windscreen. You can't see who's driving.
Yeah.
I then said to them, well, you know, I'm pleading not guilty because I'm doing least of the driving. I don't know which one the other two were doing it, so that's it. So they then proceeded to cancel the trial dates which they fixed for the last 3 times. The last one time being a few days ago is now being transferred to the end of November.
Yeah.
Where do I stand on this? I mean, because they've got no photographic evidence. All they've got is the car, and they didn't send the evidence through in time for me to actually do it on, or to defend it on time. Then they send it through, and now I'm left in a bit of a void.
This is about Section 172 of the Road Traffic Act 1988, and this is the part of the law which requires the owner of a vehicle or someone else who may have information to identify the driver at the time of an offence. Paragraph 4 of that piece of law says that if a driver does not know and cannot with reasonable diligence determine who was driving at the time of the alleged offence, then he cannot be found guilty of failing to provide the information. What this means is that in section 172 paragraph 4 you have a statutory defence. That means if you're telling the truth, you cannot determine who was driving, you cannot be convicted. So all you have to do is convince the court that you've made reasonable efforts to determine who the driver was, and the court should find you not guilty. Now, I'm not saying that works on every occasion, but that's what the law says. It's crystal clear.
Yeah.
Does that help you, David?
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. TalkSPORT. It's Mike Allen in for Mike Mendoza. Have you been one of Mike Mendoza's guests?
Me?
Yes.
I've done a lot with Mike Dickin and quite a bit with Charlie Wolfe. I don't know whether I've done Mike Mendoza or not.
No. Oh,
Sorry.
No, he would have felt it if you had it done.
Probably.
I've got a couple of guys who are very keen to speak with you because they're very impressed with the access you have to the information which is relevant. I wanted to thank Chris, Soul Brother Recordings. Thank you very much for your emails. You've provoked a lot of emails this morning. All of a sudden, people are in touch with us.
It's a burning issue, isn't it? I mean, motorists are under pressure.
Well, I think what probably put a fire under it was when you focused everyone's attention that home, education, marriage, future well-being all turn on losing your licence.
It does for a lot of people. I mean, the driving licence is essential to modern living for many, many people.
Well, we've bought into this culture where you have to get in the car and drive to the supermarket.
Yeah, we have.
It's too late to get out of it now. The reality is, if you remove that option to drive there, how do you operate?
It's been such a tremendous benefit to society, the motor car, hasn't it? And road transport. I mean, the goods that we've got in supermarkets, the doctors that we've got in hospital, the ambulance services, the police services, everything moves by road. What a tremendous innovation. The lives that have been saved by having doctors in the right place, by having medical supplies in the right place, by having clean food in the right place, all delivered by road, is out of all proportion, in fact, to the lives that are lost. We shouldn't forget that this has been a magical, enabling technology which has been of huge benefit to society.
An up-to-the-minute message really makes a point here. It's from Paul in Huddersfield. Thanks, Paul. He says, surely the satellite speed limiter won't take off. And he says something that we've not touched on this morning. He says, presumably it will eradicate speeding, therefore completely eradicate the government's revenue stream from fines. They won't accept this, as fines are the reason for speed cameras in the first place. Nothing to do with safety.
Well, I think, there is an issue there. The government do believe in making the roads safer. I've met plenty of senior politicians, and there's no doubt it's not a secret tax, the whole thing. They're not trying to get money out of motorists. And if you look at the money that flows from speed cameras, they're gathering about £120 million a year in fines. They're spending about £100 million a year on operating the damn cameras, which means there's £20 million left in the Treasury at the end of the year. And £20 million in the Treasury might sound like a lot of money, but in the Treasury it's pocket fluff. And they made the point on the Top Gear TV programme, Simon Cowell pays more income tax in a year than they get from speed cameras. So it's not driven by money in the Treasury. There are some very significant commercial motivations, though. If you look at the local camera partnerships we've got, which are set up to operate on the funds that are gathered from fines, there's a motivation there to find more drivers, to have more funds, to expand the operation.
I suppose it's a way of measuring one's proficiency.
Proficiency?
In other words, fining people, you could say, well, last year we did 500 fines and this year we've done 575.
Well, absolutely. So, yeah, there is that. But of course there's a lot of support industries who make a lot of money out of this. The people who manufacture, install, distribute cameras. There's a massive commercial interest there. And if you go back, that's exactly how this whole thing started. These folks turned up, late 1980s, went and saw senior civil servants and politicians. They're like snake oil salesmen, actually. They say, we've got these magic accident reducing machines. If you don't buy our magic accident reducing machines, you won't be serving the British public properly. And I'm afraid the politicians and the senior civil servants were not adequately equipped to resist. But it's snake oil, really. I mean, we're bought into a load of rubbish. Absolute rubbish. It's made road safety worse.
Gareth wants to have a word with you. I think he's in Aldershot, home of the British Army. Hello, Gareth.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Gareth.
Paul's here. What would you like to ask him?
Yeah, basically, what it is, I was driving through Manchester a couple of days ago, and now I've gone through a camera, you know, by the traffic lights. Now, I've overrun the traffic lights and gone where the stop line is. You've got a cycling part. Now, I've gone over that. I've realised that I've gone over, you know, while the light's been on red. So I've reversed back, and I was just wondering how them cameras actually work, and if they do work, would I actually get, you know, fined for that?
95% of the red light cameras in the country at least flash when they go off. So if you didn't see a flash, you're very likely okay.
Yeah, no, well, I never did. To be honest, I won't pay much attention to the camera. I only realised that when I reversed back, you see. So,
yeah.
I'm not too sure, but...
Well, if you didn't see a flash, there's very little chance you'll hear anything in the mail.
Thanks very much, Gareth. David's on the A303, which I think is that near
Salisbury.
Salisbury. It's what's the stone circle? Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, Dave.
Hello.
Live from Stonehenge. Are you with Druid?
No.
Good. Because I've got some nice mistletoe soup here. You'll love it.
Yeah.
So with the last few minutes of Paul Smith being with us from the Safe Speed Road Safety Campaign, what would you like to tell us about?
Well, I'm an HGV driver too, 44 tonner, like everyone, you know, all the others. And I was just, your road safety statistics on the accidents and things like that doesn't bring into account that in the summer the statistics must go up due to caravans, because there is no legislation that puts a driver through a test of any sort to tow a caravan, or how to tow a caravan properly and how to load a caravan properly. My ex-wife and children live in Cornwall, where I'm just coming back up from, and I went down on Friday, and on the M3 there was a horse box over on the M3 just past Fleet Services, and when I got down towards Oakhampton there was a caravan that had gone into centre reservation and everything, you know, and it's driver awareness as well, isn't it, you know, I mean, education.
Yeah, awareness and education is right at the middle of it. And of course the other thing about caravans is that there's no annual MOT test, so people have their caravan stored in the garden for a year and then expect it to survive on the back of their vehicle for 500 miles. Maybe they haven't even checked the tyre pressures, and sometimes they don't. So yes, there are issues with driver skills and caravans, issues with the safety of the caravans themselves as well.
Thanks very much, Dave. Paul Smith's website can be found at safespeed.org.uk. The S in safe and speed are uppercase and everything else is lowercase. On the subject of caravans, Bob got in touch. He said, I'm up and down the M5 all the time, being a truck driver, and I'm amazed at the number of cars towing caravans that use the outside lane. Have they changed the law? Asked Bob.
No, they haven't changed the law. They're not supposed to be there.
No. They're even worse when they've got a car in front of them, those vans.
Yes.
Martin's in Bristol. He's busting to have a word. Hello, Martin.
Good morning.
Morning. We haven't got...
Sorry.
Just going to say, we haven't got too long.
Right. I'd like to ask Paul, regarding the original cameras, they've got like a little shutter on the back. Now, sometimes you see them open, sometimes they see them shut. Is this to do with the film in it, on whether the film's being used or whether the film's not being used?
I don't believe it is, but actually I don't know the answer to that one. There's been various rumours about the shutters and little holes that you can see through from time to time, but I've never determined the facts on that. I don't think there is no reliable way that you can tell whether a housing has a camera in. No reliable way. There might be some clues, but as we said earlier, a lot of the housings don't have cameras in. It's just an empty box. But I'm afraid while they exist on the roadside, we're going to have to treat most of them as if they do have cameras in, because one day they will have a camera in.
Right. Okay then.
Thanks, Martin. Wish you well. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye. talkSPORT, been Mike Allen, been with us for just over an hour actually, Paul Smith from Safe Speed Road Safety Campaign at safespeed.org.uk. There was something that might ring a bell with you here from Stuart in Shropshire. He said he lives on the A41 and 7 nights a week, he said the Irish wagons come from Holyhead past the speed cam at over 70 mile an hour. He said it flashes but they never seem to slow.
Irish.
That has all that you've said about other territories on our roads.
Yeah, I think if they've got Irish registrations, they don't need to worry, really.
Simple as that.
Well, there's no interoperability, you see, so if a UK police force is trying to identify the owner of a vehicle with a Southern Irish number plate, they have no legal basis for doing so. They could write to the Irish registration authorities and say, will you tell us? But the Irish registration authorities probably can't be bothered.
I've got Robert and Gary have been hanging on for a bit. Will you speak to them?
Sure.
Okay, all right. Just remind you're listening to talkSPORT. It's Mike Allen in for Mike Mendoza. After the news, a chance to hear what Robert and Gary have got to say to our guest Paul Smith, and we're going to give him a big round of applause in a minute because he's been a true hero tonight. Not too big a round of applause, he'll be after one of our sandwiches. I'm Mike Allen, this is talkSPORT. Your last chance to get your questions through to Paul. We're talking about speed cameras. We're talking about a different take on the statistics. The telephone number is 08704 20 20 20. We'll also, next hour, be starting to look at the news that everyone else is going to be talking about as the day opens up. J.K. Rowling earns £77 each minute, and the new James Bond says, give me a chance. Kate Dirt is, I'm so sorry. I was going to say Kate Moss. Got an engagement ring. I'm Mike Allen, this is talkSPORT.
On 1089 and 1053 AM.
I declare that the person elected
around the world.
We need to build a bridge
around the clock.
What is moral about that?
From the Sky News Centre, talkSPORT on the Hour News.
The top stories from the Sky News Centre at 4.
On 1089 and 1053 AM. talkSPORT.
After the news, a chance to catch up on the book by Chris Deeds, Trash, the book's story of the New York Dolls, and you'll be very interested to see the connections that are happening from the east coast of America at that time and what was happening in London. Also more news on your health in Don't Panic. All that's to come, and I'm delighted to say an opportunity to take our last two calls from Robert in London. We're talking with Paul Smith about his take on interpreting statistics to the extent that you get information out of them that can help you in your quest for finding the truth. As soon as I get one of these little lights to lock on, I shall be so delighted. Excuse me, I'm talking about... there we are. Doctor, if they landed on the moon with the skill I'm exercising with this screen, my name is Dorothy Newton. So Gary's in Ipswich. Hello, Gary.
Hiya, Mike. Hiya, Paul.
Paul's here. What was your question to Paul?
Well, it's about foreign registered vehicles in our country.
Right.
How do the authorities make sure that their insurance, MOT or equivalent, is legal and up to date for our roads? And, you know, the revenue that's lost, they can come over here and work, possibly. Do they have to pay a road tax?
I can't hear Paul.
Hello?
Hello, Paul?
Hello?
Sorry, you stay right there, Gary.
Yeah.
Okay, I think what's happened, I think we seem to have... I didn't do this. This bit's not my mistake.
I am here.
There you are.
It is working.
Oh, thank goodness for that. I thought the battery had fallen out. We got it in the wrong way. Yeah, we got you now. So, did you hear what Gary was saying about
foreign registered vehicles?
Yes, coming in here.
There are certain checks that can be done at the roadside. I mean, for example, a foreign driver can show their certificate of registration, certificate of insurance, test certificate if required. Generally speaking.
But it won't be written. It won't be written in a language we can read, will it?
Well, I mean, that may be an issue. Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, we've got intelligent traffic officers. A few of them left, one or two here or there, and they can make an appropriate judgment at the roadside, and usually do so. So, if we use intelligent roads policing, it's not too much of a problem. If we try and do it with cameras, the foreign registered vehicles can do whatever they want.
Does that answer your question, Gary?
Yeah, it's just the amount of numbers on the road now. is increasing daily. You can see it in the North Circular in London. Just nearly every other car now is a foreign registered plate. And we're probably losing a lot of revenue, whereas I pay £175 a year road tax. They're probably paying nothing.
Well, I don't know how many of those foreign registered vehicles are British people who found a way of evading the system, but it's probably quite a significant proportion. And this is one of the consequences of trying to police the roads by camera and computer when we should be policing the roads by human beings, because people realise that there are certain places that the cameras and the computers can't see, and at the moment foreign registered vehicles are a bit of a blind spot. So smart people who want to stay outside the system drive a foreign registered vehicle, nothing happens. No parking tickets, no speeding tickets. Is that a good thing? Well, no, it isn't a good thing, but I can understand why people are doing it.
Good to talk to you, Gary. Thanks very much for the call. Robert's in London. We'll speak to him in just a minute. There we are. I'll get this to change over. It's the last thing I do. There we are. Thank you so much. Do you know, Paul, you've fired up even more emails. In Wrexham, says Stuart, who lives in Shropshire, where they've installed cameras, accidents doubled in the first year.
Yeah.
This on the back of your claim that just having cameras and operating speed restrictions isn't necessarily the smartest thing to do. Having said that, somebody said, and I'll tell you who it was actually, Ray, who lives in Plymouth, said, it's a weak argument this. Stats can tell you what you want to hear. Speed does kill, and the ability to control a vehicle at 70 miles an hour is beyond the scope of the average driver. Also, hands-free is still dangerous as it takes concentration from the road. I think most people would agree with that. In any case, there has to be drastic reduction